So I suppose I have three options. I know which one I should do, but I don't really want to do it. So let's just think about this for a second. I'm stuck. And I think it boils down to two problems. Kathy, this just breaks my heart, and I desperately want to fix her. But the second problem is Kate's important project at work. So this requires actual research. This was meant to be background, and now it feels like something so much bigger. I feel really overwhelmed. Let's dive on in. Hi, you okay? Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Well, not really, because I'm stuck. Things were going well, and I even had a couple scenes that flowed really nicely and it felt amazing. But now I'm stuck, and I've had to face it because I cannot continue to write until I figure these points out. So that is what we're going to focus on today. And I think it boils down to two problems. The first problem is understanding one of the key characters' motivations, which is Kate's mum. I'm not able to write scenes in which she's with Kate because I don't really understand where she's coming from. I'm not too worried about this. I think I just need to pause, have a think, and make some good notes, and I think we'll get there. But the second problem is Kate's important project at work. Whilst this isn't significantly relevant to the plot, it's it's probably just like a few sentences. But I do need the context of her job and what this project is that she's working on. So this requires actual research, and may have been the reason I've been avoiding this because I'm really not sure where to start and how to figure this out. So that will be interesting, and I'm a little stressed about it. I do not think this is going to be my favourite part of writing. I can tell you that now. So let's start with a quick win and figure out Kate's mum's motivations. Look at this gorgeous, empty bookcase. I've only rediscovered novels in the last couple of years and started reading physical books in the last year. And the novels that I have on my white bookcase in my office. But I find this really exciting because I get to slowly fill up these shelves with nothing but wonderful books that have inspired me. If I don't love them, I'm not going to keep them. So over time, this will be curated with nothing but books that have inspired me and can help me fix problems like the one I currently have, which brings me back to my story, or should I say, Kate's story. So I haven't properly introduced Kate's story because I'm still figuring that out. It is essentially a real world, small scale, domestic, character driven story that hopefully will be funny and deals with some real world issues as well. And there are three core threads throughout the story: stuff going on at home, stuff going on at work, and then a place where she meets and builds a supportive community of women, and in so doing, builds her confidence and makes changes to her life. So, problem one is understanding her mother's motivations. And this is what's stopping me from writing stuff going on at home. Their relationship is a big one in the book. And what I know so far is that her mum, Kathy, exhibits narcissistic behaviors. But what I think is actually going on behind it is depression. But I don't know why she's depressed. So last year I read this book, It's Not You by Dr. Romani Dervasula. I hope I said that right. It's a fantastic book about narcissism, focusing on if you have a narcissistic partner or parent. And the first half goes through what it is, what it isn't, the types and behaviors such as gaslighting, Darvo, future faking, etc. And the second half is about ways you might respond to it and how to heal from it. But it's also a fantastic character study. Narcissism is a spectrum, and Kathy is definitely displaying some of those behaviors, but there's more going on than that, and that's what I want to figure out. So I guess I'm going to go do that. Kathy, I feel so sad for her. It's heartbreaking. So I've kind of figured her out and her motivations, and it fits really well with the themes of the book. So I'm setting it in 2018, so it's a little after the Me Too movement. So by this time, it's kind of trickled down into real life. And my experience was that it didn't change anything dramatically in terms of wider society, but with so many women going public within the subsection of female society, we started to realize that we're not alone and that we can talk to each other and we can support each other. And Kate is going to be demonstrating that in the book. But Kathy is a generation before that. She doesn't really know how to be angry at men who have hurt her, so she redirects it to women. So she blames her mother for not protecting her when her father was angry. She blames Kate because all her dreams of what her life could have been like stopped when she'd gotten pregnant and she had to become a wife and mother. She blames the other woman her husband had an affair with and left her for. So, to survive it all, she's built this shell of superiority as a way to feel strong and in control. But underneath the narcissism is a deep loneliness and a grief for a life that was wasted, at least as how she sees it. And that grief shows up as depression. And beneath everything is a terror of being abandoned again. And then in terms of Kate, she's following a similar pattern in some ways. So she criticizes the parts of Kate that she despises most in herself. So the narrative that Kathy has in her head is my life ended the moment you arrived, and I gave up everything for you, therefore you owe me. This just breaks my heart. I feel her pain. I feel how stuck she is, and I desperately want to fix her. But I can't, and I'm not going to. Part of Kate's journey is understanding her mother better, but also accepting she's never going to please Kathy. She's never going to be enough for Kathy. Kathy is not going to change, so she has to. She can't wait forever, hoping that Kathy will change. So Kate needs to change, not Kathy. So this makes things so much clearer, and it's been really enlightening and helpful. So I guess I should probably face the other problem. Okay. So, problem number 2 is the important project at work. The reader doesn't really need to focus on this. The point is the dynamics between Kate and her colleagues. Like I said, this is more for my benefit. So when I'm writing it, I've got context and background information. And I think the problem was I didn't know where to begin. How do you come up with important project ideas? How do you research that? I wasn't really sure. But what I figured out was before I can think up ideas, I need to be clear on what she actually does. At the moment, she's a data analyst. I chose data analyst because I wanted her in a male dominated area. And I've also been a junior business analyst at one point, so I thought I could just wing it. Turns out I can't. So here's the plan. I'm going to start on the National Careers Service website. They give a really good overview of job profiles and link similar roles together. Then I'll go have a look at some job adverts and then maybe Reddit and do some thinking and see where we end up. So let's dive on in. A few sentences, she said. Background information, she said. I've only just gone and discovered a whole new subplot. Okay, so not only does it work really well for the theme of the book, but it also grounds the story really well in 2018. Because alongside the Me Too movement, there was another very significant event. Firstly, Kate is not a data analyst anymore. She is a market research analyst. Companies go to the company she works for, either with their own data or ask them to create surveys or whatever, and then they compile them into a report. Great. Next, who is the client company? What is their project? What is the urgency? There needs to be a clock to build tension, but why? So this sent me down all kind of different rabbit holes. And then it hit me. What if it was a housing association? What if they're bidding for a big contract to develop and manage an estate, and the last thing they need is to make their offer stand out is an independent report showing how they prioritize safety or how well they respond to repair requests from tenants or something like that? And why in 2018 would they care about adding a report like that? They're putting that in light of or in shadow of Grenfell. Okay, there is there is so much opportunity for tension between Kate and her colleagues because when they look at the data, the client company does a terrible job of responding to repairs. But there's a pressure to create a report that the client wants because they're paying for it. And this is exactly the kind of decision that feels small in isolation, but it isn't small at all. And it's the accumulation of these choices that can lead to these disasters. So, for a bit of context, I work in residential lettings and I have just finished Show Me the Bodies by Peter Apps, which is an extraordinary book about Grenfell. So, this has all been on my mind recently. Now, this could easily evolve into a whole separate theme and tangent of the book, but it really deserves its own separate book and separate exploration. So we need to bring it back to the themes of this book, which I think it does. So when Kate looks at the data, she will see the truth that the complaints are mishandled, etc. But does she stay quiet and be complicit, or does she stand up? Okay, I feel really excited and really overwhelmed. This was meant to be background, and now it feels like something so much bigger. Which brings me on to what I should do next. I suppose I have three options. I know which one I should do, but I don't really want to do it. Okay, let's just think about this for a second. Option one, stop writing completely, re outline the whole thing, and then start a new draft. Option two, stop writing and just do a quick little outline of this new story arc, and then keep going and finish this draft. Or option three, just continue with this new context in mind. Now, if I'm being honest, option one is absolutely my preferred choice. I don't like how messy it's becoming, and I like the idea of going back to the drawing board and making things all nice and neat and organised again and bringing it back into control. Especially now that I'm so much clearer on the themes and the arcs, part of me just wants to go back and do it properly. But here's the problem. I know I could easily fall into the pattern of writing half a draft, discovering all these issues, stopping, re-outline to figure out all the problems, and then make a cleaner, more coherent plan. And then, because it's so much better, starting again from the beginning. And then, as I write again, new issues will arise and the cycle will continue. On, and I never get to the end. I never finish a draft and I start avoiding the end because it will never feel as good and as polished as the beginning. Of course not, it wouldn't. How could it be? If the beginning would have had so many passes, the ending will still feel so rough. And I think it's really important to get to the end of this draft, no matter how messy it is. And it will get a lot messier now. And I need to be okay with that. Plus, if I keep writing, more problems throughout the book will be revealed. And then, when I re-outline properly after I've finished it, I'll be fixing the whole book, not endlessly refining the first half. So option two, the mini outline, sounds reasonable, but I know myself, and there is no such thing as a small, contained outline for me. It would expand and become a full restructure. And I'd be right back to option one. So I think the only option is option three, just to plow on. And that makes me really uncomfortable. But that's okay. If anything overwhelms me or I feel I can't write that scene, that's fine, as long as I've spent time thinking about it. So any other thoughts and issues that might arise, I can make a note of it and deal with them at the re-outlining stage. Identify the obstacle and then move on. Even if that means I don't write another word in this draft, I need to go through every single scene and think about each one. I will make it to the end of this story and I will make it to the end of this draft. It's okay. It's okay if it's a complete mess. That's how it starts, and you've got to start somewhere. It won't always be this difficult, and it just needs to take whatever weird journey it needs to take. And that will be good enough.